faces, that's fantastic. Obviously, if you have noise going on, we want you to stay muted. And you can unmute yourself for the call, right, Deb? I mean, it's literally just a matter, I believe, of you going down to the little button and unmuting. Please keep yourself on mute, though, until you're ready to speak if you have any background noise. That's the only
A couple of ways to unmute is unmute yourself on the how you'll be able to speak.
And there's going to be a time later, right, for speaking and asking questions?
There is.
Good.
So it is bottom of the hour. Powerful leaders, productivity coaches, and purveyors of profit. Welcome to March 30th Productivity Development Call on behalf of your CEO, Gary Keller, and your MAPS Mastery coaches. We want to welcome you, and we have a special guest. Yes, we have a record number of registrants, and you have received some documents just recently via email. Please look at your email. Subject line is documents for today's PC development call. Thanks, Becky, for sharing that. She's ahead of it. She's got it printed out. She's ready to go.
And Deb, I'm going to show them on screen anyway. So if somebody doesn't have that downloaded, we'll have that in front of you. Just know that you have access to them. That's the key. Yeah.
So let's talk about Dave. Dave, let's talk about you for a minute. So thank you for sending me this information. You're from New York, right? And you've been around for about a half a minute. So here's some of his history that you might not know.
Let's not do too much of this revealing thing.
No, we're not, because it's going to take me 15 minutes.
Exactly. No, we don't need that. We just go, here's Dave.
Yeah. So Dave is the author, co-author of 8 books. Let's just run down the ones that you know. Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Millionaire Real Estate Investor, Flip, Your First Home, Shift, A Joy-Filled Life, along with Mo Anderson, and 5+1. Here's one that you'll want to watch for that we didn't know about, is the one called Seeker. This one's called A Journey Towards Wisdom. And this is your memoirs that are due out later this year, right, Dave?
That's right. Yeah. In fact, they also are available chapter by chapter as podcasts. I tend to do things very well verbally, even better than writing. So I've taken every one of the chapters and created a podcast. And if you go to davejenks.com under Seeker the book, there's 20 podcasts, and there's a 21st one being posted after our call today that's about dealing with the virus.
Oh, that's a great, so write that down. What was that?
Dave, just go to davejenks.com. Actually, I will be posting on Facebook the link to that specific one on the virus. But if you just go to davejenks.com and go to the button that says Seeker the book, and then it lists all of the 20 podcasts that are there, plus this 21st one on the virus. Yep.
Good. So Dave, on behalf of everybody that's on this call and will listen to this recording, we want to welcome you. We want to thank you. Much gratitude. Yes. Go ahead and just fill us with wisdom. Take it away.
All right. Well, we're going to go for about 40 minutes of kind of one-way communication from me to you. I hope it's helpful, and then open it up. So if you have questions, send them in chat, whatever, and Deb will guide us through when we get to the end of that. Let me just say I'm honored to be here. It was an honor for me to join Gary Keller and Mo Anderson back in 1996 when we only had 1,800 agents. And then in the next 12 years that I was there, we grew to 72, and of course 72,000, and now you're just so far and away the most powerful real estate company in the history of the industry, and certainly in the world today. So that's a great honor. And I just want to say to you, you're going to see why I say this in a second, but you're part of the secret sauce. You know, what makes Keller Williams great, it's our commitment to productivity and achievement of entrepreneurs, of self-employed people who are building their businesses, and accountability and coaching is the key to that. And I want to reiterate that in a second, but you are part of what makes this company great. And one of the things that's important when you come to a dire shift like this, like we felt actually several times, I want to talk about it, but certainly like we felt in 2007 to 2010, what you want to be with is a company that is committed to its people and has the resources and energy to help them power through the shift. That's what we said before, power through the shift. Now Gary's saying pivot in the shift, because in a sense, we're not quite sure about what the power is exactly, We know we're going to launch up the power. We're a company of power. You're part of that power. But now we have to pivot. That means we have to be adaptable, alert, and say, where is it we go next? What can we do now? We're going to talk about that a little bit. The one thing I want you to understand is that Keller Williams was built out of adversity. So in a sense, while we don't want adversity, we actually were powered up to do it. And I want to just get that clear. When Gary Keller founded this company, actually in the real company, meaning Keller Williams, the company that's taken over the real estate industry in 1986, you understand where he was. He had just gone through a very difficult divorce. And because he wanted to retain the business, he had to agree to pay his ex-wife an amazing amount of money. His partner, Joe Williams, had said he wanted to be bought out because he needed the money to fund his investment properties. And so Gary had to enter into an agreement to buy him out again. Big debt. Then the market shifted. And many people don't understand it, but in the late 80s, and that's when Century 21 sent me down to recover Century 21's region in Texas that was losing market share like mad, and sent me down from New York as their regional director and ultimately their divisional president out of Dallas to turn things around for Century 21. Well, the market was terrible. And I would tell you the dive of the market in Texas in 1987 to 90 was worse than the 2007, 2010, worse. And that's what Gary faced. So what happened? Well, and then half of his top agents left him for RE/MAX. So you think about, maybe just close up the door, say, I'm in the wrong business, go do something else. But no, Gary did what Gary does. So the one thing I want us all to know is Gary is a role model for dealing with adversity. That's why he's back in as CEO. That's why he was all over the family reunion the last 2 years, because he knows what his role is as a visionary, productive, caring leader in times of crisis. You show up and you help people get the right vision. And so he does that. And he did that then. So he got together his top 12 people and said, hey, what would we need to do to reinvent a company that an agent would never want or need to leave? And then they started inventing Keller Williams. Well, we know all the fundamentals. I'm going to review them in a second because they're important, but they put all those in place in about 3 or 4 months. And then they became the #1 company in Austin in these dire conditions because agents got it. This was a company that really got what the agent needed and very committed to education and training. That being said, then Gary turns it into a franchise system. But about 6, and this is important for you to understand, about 6 years later, he realizes it's not going anywhere. It's stalled out. There's 30 offices out there, but there's only 5 that are profitable. And he says we're a profit sharing company. And so his accountability coach, this is where you understand it, said to him, Gary, you need leverage. You are a visionary, but you're not the one who needs to implement this. You need people who can get things implemented that you have a vision about. And so he hired Mo Anderson as CEO. Then because I'd been fired by Century 21, great story for preventing my #1 office from going to Keller Williams. That was interesting, huh? She recruited me into the mix. And so the 3 of us sat down and really not reinvented the company. The foundations were there. We implemented it. We put the models in place. Now, then go to the year 2000, 9/11, 2001. What happened on 9/11? Well, on 9/12, the day after 9/11, we were scheduled to have mega camp. Oh my God, mega camp. What did we do? We held mega camp because a lot of people were already in town. So we held mega camp. About half the number that we had registered showed up, and we did it then a month later for the other half. And actually it ended up being more than that. But see, that adversity didn't turn us around. Right. We kept, we just asked ourselves, what's the right thing to do here? And we did it. And of course, then 2007, 2008. But the interesting thing is that understand that we had grown by then to be, the #3 company. We had 72,000 agents, and that shift powered us to the top. I mean, it wasn't long after that we became #1. And of course now, not even close, 40% ahead of whoever #2 is. So I say all that because right now, I will tell you, Gary Keller has a goal for us as a team to achieve 20% market share. We have 10% now. And I believe this shift will be what drives us to that 20% market share, because we will come out of this stronger. Now, the thing I want to say to you, and then I want to go into another part of this presentation, and that is, this is a perfect time for you to attract other agents from other companies to us. Why? Because their companies are not giving them the support, the training, the perspective, the resources that they need to deal with this crisis. It's not. They're being ignored. They're being left alone. And
they're
so
orphaned, and some of them are being orphaned, honestly.
being orphaned. So
Yeah.
you need, that's right. So this is a perfect time for you to reach out if you've been developing relationships with other people in other companies to say, okay, come on over. We've got the resources here. We're going to power it through. The stuff we're getting from Keller Williams International is amazing every day. We have it here too. And by that, one thing you don't get over there is me, meaning you, the productivity coach. So this is a perfect time for us. Now, it's a challenging time for us. So there's three things I really want to do. I want to remind us, so we can remind our people why we're in the right place. I said in a post about our call this afternoon that I'd say the two sources of power. And the one is the environment you're in. Gary Keller calls it a productivity specific environment. What the environment you are in impacts what you can accomplish. And there is no more productivity specific environment than ours, including, of course, you. But there's a reason for that. I want to kind of remind us all of this. And then the second one is the people you have around you, your relationships. And this is a relationship-based company. We believe Gary says, no one succeeds alone. We believe in synergy. And I've been in front, over the last 6 months, I've been in front of probably 8 or 10 big Keller Williams groups, not counting the chance I had to be a breakout speaker at Family Reunion. And I've just said to all of them, the power of this company is you. We are committed to leadership, and we are committed to people like productivity coaches who are there to support and care about other people. So the second source we have is the synergy that is just inherently in our culture. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. So let's kind of go back. The one thing I want to remind us is right at the beginning of MREA, Gary and I wrote this, and Jay was writing with us, but he was more of an editor at that point. Now later he became a real super content guy. But at the beginning, and Gary and I said we had both read Anthony Robbins' book, Unlimited Power. And on page 36, we say this from his book. We quote his book. Long ago, I realized that success leaves clues, and that people who produce outstanding results do specific things to create those results. Item 2, actions are the source of all results. The process of discovering exactly and specifically what people do produces a specific result, and we call that modeling. So remember that word. I mean, Mo and I taught FSO for 12 years, and we said, follow the model. Keller Williams is built on powerful models. Number 3, to me, modeling is the pathway to excellence. Now, that being said, that's what we built into MREA. We modeled the behavior of top agents. It wasn't Gary Keller and Dave Jenks and Jay Papasan inventing things. We had masterminds. We've been doing it for 6 years. And when Gary gave us the challenge, do we want to make history? And we all said yes. And we put all of our 100 ideas up on the easel pads and the flip charts, and then picked the 5, because Gary says you got to focus. The number 1 of the 5 things we were going to do to create history in 2002 was write the book. Write the book. We didn't have a name for it yet. We just knew we knew the book. In fact, we called it Mega Agent Productivity Systems. That's now MAPS, but at the time, that was the way we were looking at this. And we wrote that book. And then that was one of the top 5, or that was the number 1 of the 5 most important things to do. Well, what we did was just talk about coming out of crisis. That was right after 9/11. We took our annual growth from 30% a year to 50% a year. And we went from 10,000 agents to 57,000 in 4 years, and then of course to 72, and now beyond that. So I say all that because it's built on models, and we are modelers. Productivity coaches are modelers. So let me just share with you kind of as a reminder that, here we go. And all right.
You're very techie.
I'm working on it. Hey, thank you for the compliment. Thank you for the compliment. So we're working on it, as we all are. So here's the thing. These are the models that make Keller Williams the most powerful real estate company in history. It's what I taught in franchise systems orientation. I want to give this, though, because it's a reminder to agents of why they're here. A lot of our agents, they know they're with the most powerful real estate company. They know they're with the biggest real estate company. They know all the great people in it, but they don't know why we're so good and no one else can match us. Well, here's the reason. Number one is we understand the economics. We have an economic profit sharing model. The agent keeps most of the commissions. In most offices, on average, the agents keep 81 to 88% of all the commissions they earn. That's higher than by far and away higher than the average of the top 500 real trends companies, but it's also higher than most others. There's a bunch of commission splits around, but when you look at how much gets to stay in the hands of the agent, Keller Williams is right at the top. And in addition to that, it doesn't cost much to be part of our national company. Here we have this powerful national company with all of the KW Connect and all the services and referral networks and all the stuff we have. And it costs less than 3% a year to be there. Yes, it's collected at 6%, but it caps at 3,000. We know that, but it's so smart. I'm just going to say that this model of Keller Williams is so economically savvy. There is no other company built. And then we run big market centers because we know that gives us a chance at profitability, and we care about our owners who are taking the risk. So we don't put a Keller Williams office on every corner. We're not like having 4,000 or 5,000, 6,000 offices like RE/MAX or Century 21 or all of those. We only have 800, and that includes internationally, and that gives all of our market centers a chance to have a market share and not steal from each other. So that's a big deal because that generates profit because we run cost effectively. And then that allows us to get to profit sharing, an amazing thing, $170 million a year in profit sharing. It's just astounding. So that's one model. Number two is we, more than any other company, really understand the real estate sales business game. Really understand it. We've written the books on it, but we have everything from the beginning, Ignite, all the way up through MREA and expansion. So as much as an agent wants to take their business as big as they want to take it, wherever they are in it, we have the models for them to get there. And we have the training for them to do that. Now, the third one is we have an organizational leadership model. It means we share leadership. So we have at the market center, we have leaders in place, MCAs, team leaders, productivity coaches, OPs. We have people in place and we know the roles and we train for those roles and we share that leadership. And then of course we have the ALCs and they have a say in everything that happens in the company. It's not a democracy, but it's a participatory republic. They have the chance to have an input in that. And then we have a synergistic recruiting growth model because we know that recruiting doesn't happen per se because of marketing. It happens because of relationships. And you know that. And that's why agents refer people to us. And when they refer people to us, we bring them in. We have trained recruiters, of course, who can do that. But the point is it's based on relationship and all great things. Bob Berg wrote a wonderful book called Endless Referrals. And he said, everything in life is about word of mouth referrals and relationships. And we know that's how agents build their databases. We know it's how they build their careers. And that's how we build our company. Not on marketing and advertising. We don't do any. Keller Williams International has never spent anything on marketing, yet we have the most known brand. And it was one of the things I remember when I first came with Gary Keller, and he said, Dave, you spent all these years with Century 21. You understand, that all that marketing for brand doesn't really matter. And I said, I know that, Gary. I said, I know that. I know when agents leave Century 21, they take their clients with them. The client isn't loyal to Century 21, even though we spend millions on our brand. So here's what we learned. We learned this little phrase, and is a brand drives recognition, but reputation drives choice. And you build reputation through your people. And that's how we've built the level of the company we have. So we have synergistic recruiting groups. Now, here are the two that matter and you're part of. We're a learning-based educational model. We believe that learning-based people are the ones who achieve the most. When you have something to do, you have something new to learn. You have to learn the knowledge and the skills and the attitudes to be successful at any new venture. And so you have to learn how to do it, and you have to do it as an adult. So we have the learning-based educational model, and we have you know this. Keller Williams Training was rated by Training Magazine the #1 training system in 2 years. And the other year in between, we were #2 in the entire world of all industries. That's unbelievable when you think about that. And yet it just showed there, and MAPS was of course part of that. So So we get education. We get adult education. We have it in every form it's needed. We have person to person. We have local coaching. We have master faculty, and we have all the stuff on KW Connect and now KW Live. So here's the secret one a lot of people don't understand. Number 6, we understand productivity and we understand accountability. It's the 411, and it's the productivity, the 3 aspects of productivity warrior. And you represent that. See, because we know that high achievers succeed better when they clarify their goals and they have an action plan to achieve them, but even more than those 2, that they have accountability. Because accountability allows you to keep track and stay on track, right? And that's what you help people do. It's a place where they can deal with how they get better or what's in their way. And we know the 5 questions of accountability, and you just do those simply all the time with people. And that's like, go back to Gary when his accountability coach, Bain Henyon, said, you need leverage, Gary, you can't do it all yourself. And then he hired Mo, and Mo hired me. So, and everything launched from there. So Gary believes in accountability, and he builds it into the company. We have the systems, the 411, the 135, we have all the systems. Plus we have the people, which is you. So that's one of the reasons we're such a powerful company, and so many people have started their career with us and then gone up to high places. Number 7 is we have a culture, and it's actually a 2-sided culture. It's the Y4C2Ts, the values-based culture, how we treat each other, and it's the achievement focus, the 6 personal perspectives, because Gary always asked great questions. And in 1996, as he and I were building Keller Williams University, he said, Dave, you've worked with a lot of high achievers, so have I. How do they think differently than people who don't achieve at that level? And we hammered that over for about 3 days, spent, I think, 1 whole afternoon on E to P. And we created the 6 personal perspectives. And then that was taught at the beginning of every one of the Keller Williams University courses for the next 3 years. And we would start every course off with an hour and a half maybe, of the 6 personal perspectives. So they're still relevant, of course, and that's one of the things I know you hold people accountable to, but it's also part of our culture. So we're an achievement culture that really treats each other well. And then the final one, the 8th one, which in a way, we say we've just added it on, it's the agent and customer focused technology model, but it's been there from day one. I mean, we have kw.com. How early did you need to be in the internet game to have the 2-letter domain name?
Right.
And I remember back in '99 when we built homesbyauction.com, thinking that maybe like in Australia, we'd go to auction. And we said, well, if this industry goes to auction, we want to have the agent in the middle of that auction process. And so we built a whole website and a whole technology system about how to do homes by auction. Now we tested it, and it didn't fly. The consumer wasn't interested in it, and agents didn't want it. So, but it's on the shelf. So if ever the industry shifts in that direction, we got the tools and we've got the experience. So I say that, and of course now this is such a critical time for us all, because here we are in the age of technology, and we are building the world's best technology platform for big data and AI. And also for really, but it drives off the agent's relationships. That's the key. And I want to get back to that in just a second. So there are the 8 models. That's what makes us great. We're a model-driven company. We know how to do it. We do it at all the levels. And this is why all the other companies who try and imitate one aspect or another of our system don't get it, because they don't understand that it's all 8 of these that work together to make us as powerful as we are, right? So we took that into MREA, and we developed the 3 L's, leads, listings, and leverage. We knew the economic model, the lead generation model, the budget model, and the organizational model. And I want to take a minute just to share a document with you that may be helpful. Hang on a second here. I got to call it back up. And so there's 2 things that you have that I've done. One is that MREA has a wonderful table of contents, and I love that. I love books with a very extended table of contents, because you can look at it. It's like a dashboard for the entire book and all of the wealth, all of the information that's there. So we have that in that book, but I just highlighted here the things I think that I would reference people to. When it comes to lead generation, page 133 to probably 1 147, 133 to 147. It's a little, is really all, it's the heart of building mindshare and building a database and a referral-based business. It's all there and the methods that you do that. So that's tight. The second thing is, if you're going to, the path to the 7th level, the path to leverage, is page 196 to 203. Those 7 pages guide you on how to build an effective team, that it's admins first, buyers assistants second, and then listings. But it shows you that path, and it talks about what the key issues are. And it says, don't go too fast, master each step as you go through that, make your own self productive first. Whereas that's the big mistake agents make, is they think it's about building a team. It's not, it's about building productivity. And so the very first thing that you do is hire admins, so you, as the producing agent, can be doing dollar productive activity and really achieving at a high level. So for example, when we interviewed Mike Mendoza, when we were writing the book, I said to Mike, so last year, Mike, I mean, you've got this team, but it looks like they're not organized kind of like how it looks like we're going to write it in the book. You know, what is your own personal production? Well, he said, the only reason, he said, I have agents on my team is that my share of their commission pays for my administrative staff. That's all he was trying to do. That's not exactly the MREA model, but that's what he was doing. But listen to this. He said, I said, how many listings did you take last year? He said 172. Whoa, how many sold? 165. Wow. Okay. How many buyers did you put under contract? 51. 51. He took 172 listings and 51 buyers by himself. Well, see, that's what I think is the first step of productivity. Before you start adding anybody, get your own productivity up to that level or something like that. And I think agents try and skip over that. And of course, we know they don't hire admins, they don't hire quality admins, and they try to jump to buyer's agents before they even have, as we recommend, 2 admins. So the point is, those are the mistakes that are made, but I wanted to share with you, I know that's not the key right now, but for your agents who are looking at their future, because when we come out of this shift, there's going to be a big future. And if they're getting ready for that, then they want to master this book, you know, also. But the one that I wanted to share with you, because it doesn't have a really good table of contents, is Shift. So here is a 2-page document that really outlines the key pages of Shift. And in this time that we're in, other than the mindset one, you know, get real, get right, you know, don't be unrealistically negative, don't be overly optimistic, positive, be resourcefully realistic. That's the right mental attitude. And you hear Gary talking about that all the time right now. And if, by the way, the redo of the foreword to that book that he did in 2010 is a brilliant piece, about 16 pages long. It's a brilliant piece on achievement and the mindset and the actions of high achievers. It's brilliant. I'm telling you. I just reread it yesterday because I was reviewing, getting ready for our call here, and I went, oh yeah, I need to review what Gary wrote after we wrote the book, and it is amazing because it talks about this tough-minded attitude of being realistic but optimistic. We always said, and I would just say this to everyone, remember, one of the keys for us is our role models. And one of the role models I would suggest is you look at Gary Keller, because he built this thing out of adversity, and he is the most, we used to kid Gary about this, we said, you're the most black-headed optimist we've ever known. You know, because you believe that anything is possible, and you also believe everything can go wrong at the same time. So every time Gary attacks a plan, and you can tell this, the automation guys, the technology guys would tell you, every time they bring things to him, he'll poke holes in it all the time. Every business plan I ever brought to him, he would find the flaws in it because he has that analytic mind, but he isn't against trying to do it. He's just saying, you better have your thinking straight. You better get it right. You better be realistic and in touch with reality. So anyway, it's wonderful to have that level of an entrepreneur. I really believe in my observations, not only my experience, that he is in the top 5 all time of entrepreneurs in American business. I would put him up there with Sam Walton and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and you know, Steve Jobs and all these people, because he's changed an industry.
Yeah.
The things that this industry does today, most of them are trying to emulate what he put in place in his company. and they're not doing it as well as he's put it in place. So understand he's a great role model because he's also about when it's time to hunker down and then get focused, the one thing on what matters. And so what matters now for us, there's really three right now. I just want to share it with you. I had a little post this afternoon. There's really three things that matter in the shift right now, beyond taking care of yourself, beyond watching your health, doing all these things that are being recommended. That's fine. Take care of those close to you. But from the point of view of business, there's really three things. And one is lead generate. Two is learn. Three is build your relationships. So what that means for us is it's all about lead generation. It's all about building the people who know you and think of you and reminding them to think of you as a caring, professional person. So that's reaching out to your database and talking to them about how are they doing, just checking in with them. The other is getting more and more personal information about your people and putting it in your database. So part of lead generation we need to understand is building your database. It's always been the business. It's what we put in MREA. We knew that. And here's the one step people miss, and they need to put a system in place for this. It's called capture. I learned this from Gary Gentry. He said, Dave, I can learn more about people in 15 or 20 minutes with them than probably anybody in the world can. But what I find is 2 hours after I've left them, I forgot half of it. So he said, what I learned to do was the minute I left any appointment, I immediately, now at that time, he said, dialed my voicemail, or you would go on your smartphone. And he said, I recorded everything I'd learned about them, where they were from, the kids' names, the pets' names, the hobbies, all that stuff, where they worked, and what they did, what they liked, and what their future plans were. And he said, then I would send that to my admin, and they would put it in their database. They would put all the right stuff in the right fields. And of course, now in our database, we have an amazing number of fields available and that we can customize. But also, he said, I would put then any extra stuff in the notes. And he said, the interesting thing is when I would call those people back on a follow-up, and that screen was in front of me with all that personal information on them, oh my God, the bond I created, they couldn't believe that I'd remembered this stuff. They couldn't believe that I was asking about their kid that was at A&M. So just understand that the capture part of this is really important. So the whole thing about find the motivated, look at number 48, number 4, that whole chapter, find the motivated and then get to the table, which is all about lead conversion. Those 2 chapters must be mastered. Now, one of the things people misunderstand about shift because of when we wrote it and how we titled it. It sounds like it's only built for working in a shifting market. I'm sorry, it's not. Take away the first 3 chapters and the rest, chapter 4 through 9 and chapter 12, is about the fundamentals of real estate. In fact, really shift is the second edition of MREA, because when we wrote MREA, we figured in 5 years we'd need to do a second edition that kind of, maybe made some corrections and made things better. But when we looked at it, we realized that everything we'd written was timeless truth. And other than maybe a few numbers, things weren't very different. Mm-hmm. But we said what we didn't put in that book were sales techniques. We didn't put how to lead generate really in detail. We didn't put how to get people to come in for an appointment with the scripts and dialogues and the way to do it. We didn't do that. And we didn't help people make their presentation on how to get it priced right or staged right, or how to help buyers make decisions when they want to look at 40 more houses. And so we had to give the language. So what shift are the fundamentals of real estate sales. How to talk, how to influence, how to sell, how to get to the right answers. So now let's go back to what's the second most important thing for people to do now. Use this as a training time. Use this, power up for the shift. That means any training you do for yourself right now will get you ready for when you come out of it. So master the scripts and dialogues. Go into, by the way, page 95 of MREA. Remind people there, that's a whole listing presentation and buyer rep presentation on one page. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, before we begin, may I take a minute to tell you the 10 things I am going to do to help cause your home to sell? And there they are, the 10 things, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, before we go looking for the right home for you at the right price in the right amount of time. Would you mind if I took a minute to tell you how I work with buyers? I have 10 things I do. And there they are, right there on that one page. So the fundamentals of a listing presentation are right there in MREA, which is amazing. But then you go to Shift and you get them into these things and learning how to use these scripts and dialogues, how to talk to sellers about being in the market, not just on the market. Just because your home's on the market doesn't mean it's in the market. My job as your consultant is to be sure that we price it right and stage it right so your home is actually in the market and will get multiple offers and sell in that window of opportunity. That's another thing we talk about in there. So anyway, I could keep going on, but there's so much rich selling language right in Shift, and that leads people to where they are. And then the third thing people want to do now is build their relationships. Two kinds. One is the number of people who think of them when they think of real estate. So that's their database, adding more people to their database, even if they're not ready now to buy or sell. Just getting to know them, adding them to their database, and then, and here's the secret of the learning curve, getting them into command and consumer. So right now, because Gary has invested the last 4 years in building this amazing technology system, here's the perfect time for all of our agents to take the time, because they have it, to learn that system. So if somebody hasn't mastered command, here's the time to do it. And there's all kinds of training, as you know, on KW Connect and all of that. So plug them into that. One of the things I want to say to you as a productivity coach, by the way, you're a guide. You are a guide. Keller Williams information and training can be overwhelming. Overwhelming. There's so much. Agents don't even know where to start. If I were you, I would say, here's where you start. Here are the 3 things I would go have you look at and watch. And you be their guide. People in the age of over-information need guides. Where should I go first? What should I do first? And then have them come back to you. This is the accountability part. Have them come back to you and tell you what they learned. That's where training, I always, when I coached mega agents about training their agents, I said, don't take a lot of time for hands-on training. Give them a thing to go watch, and then have them come back and tell you what they learned, or show you what they now can do. And I said, that's it. You don't need to take all this classroom time to repeat what's already available elsewhere. Use your relationship with them to hold them accountable to what they learn, and have them show you what they learned, because that'll be much more effective than you telling them what you know. So accountability in that sense is really good. So you be the guides to people. I'm just going to encourage you to be the guides. Now, one kind of final thing I want to do. Now we're talking attitude. Now we're talking, how do you build yourself the kind of the mental set, the mindset of handling tough times. Well, it's funny, I had a chance ahead of this all happening at family reunion. It was wonderful to be asked back by Gary to be re-engaged in the company, and they gave me the second stage at family reunion, a breakout session that held, we had over 3,400 people. It was funny, I was backstage and I'm going, I've been away from the company actively for 10 years. I'm probably going to walk out on that stage and there's going to be 500 people scattered among 3,000 chairs. There won't be anybody. Well, it was packed. It was packed. And they gave me, at the end, the standing ovation. The energy was wonderful because they got the sense of my sense of the wisdom of the company and why they were there. But also how to deal with it personally, because I shared with them, I won't do it with you, the number of at times of adversity I've faced in my life, including very dire, almost suicidal, just bad times. But I have learned, it's one thing I've learned, is how to manage my mental attitude. And I've read the books on it. I'll send you my list of my top 10 books about managing your mindset. I followed the string of cognitive psychologists all the way to positive psychologists, and the ones, because I tend not to go with the hypey books. I tend to go with the hypey feel-good books. I tend to go with the scientific, truthful books. It's just my nature of being a math physics major as an undergraduate. But here's the thing that I taught them, and it was called Light My Fire, which was the commitment to self-mastery, or the power of self-mastery. And what I said was, Gary Keller is a master of the second of the 6 personal perspectives, and that is focus with the 80-20. And of course, that's what he wrote with Jay, the one thing. But I said, I'm a master of the first one, and that is self-mastery. And I remember when Sharon Gibbons, early on, when we had just a few people in the staff, they would come into Sharon on a bad day and she'd say, oh, go down the hall and talk to Dr. Feelgood. Dave will make you feel good.
That's great.
So I'm Dr. Feelgood. I really am. And I don't, it's not because I'm a Pollyanna. In fact, I know all the tough stuff. I've been through the tough stuff. That's not the problem. The problem is, how do you approach things that are tough? Well, here's the thing. It's my FIRE formula. Number 1, freedom. Number 2, intention. Number 4, resilience. Number E, enthusiasm. You work on this for yourself. Freedom means live in gratitude. It comes from Og Mandino's book, The Greatest Miracle in the World, where the gentleman, Og, receives this memo from God, and it says, I've created life to be abundant, and you can do whatever you want if you will do these 4 things. Number 1, count your blessings. Number 2 is affirm your unique self, your own uniqueness. You are unique. You don't need to be like everyone else. You have certain skills and abilities. Affirm those and then use those. And the third one was use your God-given power to choose. You have free will. You get to make choices. You're going to live with the consequences, but you're free to make choices. No one else can stop you from that. And of course, the fourth one, which is really under R, is go another mile. No, it didn't say go the extra mile. That's the hypey side of it. No, just go another mile. Hang in there. Hang in there. And this is a time for people to hang in there. But hang in there with positivity. So, number 1, freedom. Live in gratitude. Number 2, intention. Have a sense of what you want to do. Set your goals. I would say for people right now, the most important for them is to have goals right now. Mm-hmm. Goals for what it's like after we're through this, and goals for what it's like during it. What am I going to do? You know, how many people am I going to add to my database? How many classes in Command am I going to listen to? How many sessions am I going to do with my productivity coach? Set their goals, set their plans, and then support them, be accountable to them. Have somebody like you hold them accountable to staying on track to their plan. So intention, be on purpose. And then resilience, and this is a big one, because life is going to be full of adversity. You know, the Buddhists say life is suffering. Scott Peck's book, The Road Less Traveled, begins with the sentence, life is difficult. The second sentence says, and when you understand it's difficult, it gets easier, meaning you don't have unrealistic expectations. Life's going to throw you challenges. That may be. Some of us who are very spiritual, maybe that is what life's about. It's not what happens to you. It's how you respond to that, what you learn from it, how you deal with it, how you pass that on to other people, but resilience. And then also part of that is learning to stay calm. So I have a little MELT formula: meditate, exercise, laugh, and train. That's how you deal with stress. You know, you learn to meditate, learn to get yourself physically calm. You exercise, get rid of the bad energy. You laugh at yourself, at others, with others, and then train. In other words, that just like Gary Keller has, he has trained himself to deal with stress. I'm telling you. I mean, there are very few other people that could do the number of sessions he had to do as a leader at family reunion. Probably, 0.1% of anybody in the world of even leadership in business. But he's trained himself to stay calm under pressure, stay focused, and know what he's going to do and change his focus depending on what the current situation is. And then the final one is enthusiasm. And I call this the spiritual one because enthusiasm comes from entheos, the God within. And I think it's where we really let that natural positive nature, that childlike curiosity, that childlike, can do, the childlike I want to do part of us come forth. And we encourage that and we build that and we hang out with other people that have that. So that's the acronym: FIRE, live in gratitude, be on purpose, stay calm and focused, and the force be with you. And then I just want to close with one thing. And by the way, if any of you would like a copy of my slides from family reunion, I'm going to ask you to do one thing, and I'm not going to send them so that Michelle or Deb can send them to you. That's the easy way. I want you to earn this. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is send them an email to dave@kw.com, dave@kw.com. Tell me 1 or 2 things that you got out of this session today. Just 1 or 2 things that were valuable, that were most valuable to you. And then I will send you to your email address all the slides that I used in that, and this thing I'm going to just share with you now, because I had a neat opportunity to crystallize my thinking about how to deal with adversity. Wayne Salmons wrote a book 2 years ago called The Art of Getting Back Up. And he asked me if I would write the foreword to that book. I was very honored to do that, but I read the book and it made me think about, how do you get back up? How do you deal with adversity? What does that really mean? And I wrote the foreword, had a lot of self-revealing things about my adversity in it. But here's what I wrote at the end of it. I just want to share it with you because I think it's kind of a mindset for dealing with the times we're in now. Here's what I know. All high achievers will deal with failure. They'll deal with doubt, discouragement, and even depression. They'll feel fear and weakness. They'll lose friends they thought were forever. They'll feel judgment they don't deserve. Their hopes and dreams will get cloudy and unsure, and they'll want to stop trying so hard. They'll want to avoid the pain. But here's what I also know. This is the path of the free enterprise warrior. This is the story of the entrepreneur. This is the burden of heroic leaders. It just comes with the territory. It's part of the game. It's the challenge we must endure. And beyond the darkness is light. Beyond the pain is joy. Beyond the burden is contribution. And beyond the doubt is meaning. So have at it. Bring it on, get ready, prepare for it, absorb the wisdom of the art of getting back up, learn the steps, master the skills, feel the power and the resilience and the tenacity. Bring that confidence to your work, to your venture, to your purpose. Know that you will certainly get knocked down, but you will never stay down. You have the unstoppable power of persistence. You embrace the optimism and challenge of always getting back up. Enjoy the journey.
Woo.
There we go.
Thank you so much.
Woo. Let me ask Deb real quick. How many of you realize we've actually been on the call for 45 minutes, or was this the fastest 45 minutes we've ever shared together? Right? That went fast, Dave.
Yeah, but you can't stop Dave from talking though. Once he
Got
gets
great
going.
things to share. So we
Yeah.
have about, what, 15 minutes or so,
Just
less,
a little
actually.
less.
Little
Yeah,
less.
so we're looking for, what questions would you like to ask Dave? Because I know you have a lot of them, you're coaches.
As we get those questions, one thing I'm going to throw out to all the coaches as an action step based on what Dave was sharing. Go to your vital sign reports. You get them under the Market Center vital sign reports. Click on contacts added to command database. Click that report. You will get a report that will show every single person in your Market Center and how many people they currently have in command.
Wonderful.
And then challenge yourself with every single person you have in your program to double, triple, quadruple, whatever the number is, and get them fast now, because as Dave said, now is the time for those care calls. They should be calling every single person and checking in. How are you? What can I do? What resources are you in need of that I can support you with today? Okay, so thanks for letting me do that action step. All right, question. We probably won't have a lot of time for questions unless we go fast with the response.
So here's one question from Juan. Thanks for asking. Repeat the path for that report again for vital signs. Michelle, you
Vital signs. Yeah, so if you are registered in KW, if you are noted as a productivity coach, you have access to this report. You go to reports, mykw.kw.com. Reports. Under reports, Dropbox, look for Market Center. Next Dropbox, go all the way down to vital signs. Click it. Okay.
And Ask Your Maps Coach is another one.
Yeah, we'll help you with that. Okay, questions for Dave. Lots of gratitude for you, Dave. And by the way, as you were speaking, I mean, there was just so many thank yous. This is gold. This is priceless, that kind of stuff. Who's got a question for
I would just say one more time, send me any ahas that you got, that was valuable. And I will send you the slides and that, and also my list of the top 10 books for dealing with adversity.
Yeah, we want that too.
Send all of that to whoever sends me something at dave@kw.com.
And you can unmute yourself if you have a question for Dave. You guys have them. There you go. You guys ask questions, so let's hear it. Go, Bree.
So I have a question, Dave. Like, one of the things that resonated with me that you said is the FIRE acronym.
Yes.
And for me, gratitude is like one of my love languages. So
Yes.
I'd just love to ask you, what are you grateful for today?
Yeah, what am I grateful for? I'm grateful for this opportunity, by the way. I'm grateful for the chance to be plugged back into Keller Williams. There's so much positive energy here, and to have, I've been doing these kind of Zoom calls for market centers, because I believe that Keller Williams is a local business, right? I mean, real estate's a local business, and Keller Williams is local, and the energy really comes from the market center. So if I can do something like this for your market center, just send me an inquiry about that, dave@kw.com. So anyway, I'm grateful for that. And of course, 3 years ago, after my 3-year homeless journey around the country with my Jeep Grand Cherokee, my 2 mountain bikes, and my golf clubs, and just visiting all over the place and enjoying that, I came out of that. Actually, I did a Facebook post asking for, I put a missing person report up for a woman in my life. How about that? A missing person report. And a friend of mine through KW referred me to a lady that I'm now married to and having a wonderful life. So very grateful about that. Thank you.
Wow. That's awesome. Thank
So
you.
that's a career visioning process, right?
It is. No, I think it is. Put your, get clear about who you're looking for, and then tell the world who you're looking for. Missing person report. We teach it in Keller Williams, right?
Yeah, it's a model.
I do want to say something about that. So when I was a productivity coach back in 2007, and I looked at this book, at that time, and my coach at that time was Diana Kokoska, and she told us all, ask for what you want. We hear this from Mo Anderson all the time, ask for what you want. So I was looking in this book, and I found Mike Mendoza's phone number, and here I am, a PC coach. I called Mike Mendoza, who was interviewed in this book. I don't know who Mike Mendoza is. I barely even know what I'm doing as a productivity coach, right? And I call him, and I said, listen, I'm in this position. It's called productivity coach. I'm here to help the agents. What's one thing that you would tell me that would help them the most? But here's the point. I called him and I got his voice message, right? So I left a message. I'm a productivity coach. Believe it or not, I'm going to tell you, it was probably within an hour and a half or 2 hours. He calls me back.
Yes.
And he apologized that it took 2 hours to call me back.
That's Mike.
The point is, if you don't ask people, call people, ask them questions. He was so gracious. And he told me, he said, the number one thing, what do you guys think was the number one thing? It was lead generation. Yes, as a coach, make sure you're holding them accountable to lead generate every single day. Help them build the confidence of what to say and make sure they're doing it. Yeah. No surprise.
Yeah. So I actually know Mike Mendoza. I went to high school with him.
Yeah.
Totally dating myself now. He also, I referred him as a listing agent to my mother's house. So it's ask, right? So you got an ask. So those were models. So you're grateful for your journey, your return back to Keller Williams. I didn't even, and your wife. Great.
Yes.
That's the part of the fire. Read another question, or who else has a question?
Well, by the way, I would just say you this as a little thing. I actually, as I go to bed every night, that's my prayer. It's a prayer of gratitude. I think about the things I'm grateful for. And particularly that helps when I'm feeling a little challenged or discouraged. So gratitude's the right attitude.
So Dave, I have a question. Uncertainty, right? Which is the time that people seem to be in. If you were a productivity coach inside of a market center and you were in the times we're in today, what would be one thing you would do to help the associates navigate through uncertainty?
Well, I would spread positivity in a realistic way. I mean, I would get into, by the way, you may want to listen to a podcast I just did today on dealing with the coronavirus, because what it says is, yes, there are pragmatic things to take care of, but the other thing you do is you say, how can I use this time to my best advantage? And so I think guiding people to do their own personal development and training, to master command, and to call everyone they know through their database and have a conversation with them, that prepares them for what's going to be there when we come out the other side.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great.
Somebody's asking for books
from Bree, and it's, where can we listen to the podcast again? Go ahead and give that.
No, just don't know. I'm going to, once we're done, I'm going to post up on Facebook.
Perfect.
A link, but you can go to davejenks.com, and click on the Seeker the book. That's the name of the book. And it has a list of all of the podcasts, and number 21 will be the one on dealing with the virus.
Great. Thank you.
Dave, this is Mika Fox, Maps Coach. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
All right. First of all, I want to give you a Y5. Thank you.
There we go.
Y5. Woo! All right. So I had the pleasure of joining this company in 2002. So I got to be here when you were in, it was the David, it was the early days. It was the Gary and Dave show. So thank you for that. And We were asked a question. There you go, Camp 443. We were asked a question today as MAPS coaches, and I'd love to hear your answer to this question. And that's, what's the biggest problem we can solve for our agents today?
There's two, and I don't mean to number one is what they can be doing. So you got to get in this kind of environment, you have to get into the world of action. You have to get into doing something, listening to a class, listening to KWRI or KW Live, getting into a command training program. You've got to stay active, or making phone calls to people that you know. So one is encouraging activity. So the second is encouraging positivity. To say, you know, that, and there's a wonderful book, it's on my list of 10, that just came out actually about 10 years ago, but it's the extension of something I've been watching for years called Positive Psychology. Dr. Martin Seligman is the founder of it, who said, we've spent so much time working on mental disease, why don't we work on mental health? What's the model for mental health? And for him, it was optimism. So his book, Learned Optimism, is wonderful. But this book is called The Happiness Advantage. And what the author, Shawn, S-H-A-W-N, Anchor, A-N-C-O-R, says is that having a positive mindset impacts everything for the better. People with positivity definitely outperform, outdo people with neutral attitudes or negativity. I once had a professor of mine when I was working on my doctorate in counseling psychology. He said, Dave, people have one of two words in their mind, yes or no. He said 20% of the people have the word yes, and they're doing 4 or 5 times better than the 80% who have the word no. And so I think trying to get your people to shift any no in their mind to a yes is worth it.
Great. Great.
This is Gretchen Kingma in St. Louis, Missouri. I am a
Hi, Gretchen.
very new PC with Krista Staub in the Kirkwood and Southwest Market Center. I just want to thank you so much for your vulnerability. You mentioned mental health. I appreciate your vulnerability, a little bit about your adversity. And I loved your line about you don't have to take the extra mile. You just have to take the next mile. There you go. It stays positive, but also gives permission to not be perfect. So thank you for that line.
Well, you're welcome. And by the way, just go back and reread Gary's new introduction, the one he did in 2010 to Shift. I mean, we came out with Shift in 2008, but in 2009, 2011, he added a forward to it. So if you don't get that issue that has that new forward in, read it, because it has that same attitude of go another mile rather than go the extra mile. It's not full of hype, it's full of assertive wisdom. Yeah.
This is Ashley from Littleton, Colorado. This may be a very basic question, but you shared the 3 activities of the productivity warrior and the 5 questions of accountability. Could you just share with me what those are?
Sure. Well, the 3 things of the productivity warrior is to know your what, how, and when. In other words, what are your goals? How are you going to do it? Action plan. And when you're going to, as Gary said, if it's not on your calendar, you're not committed to it. So that's why time blocking is such a big deal, right? Second of all is allow yourself to be held accountable. That high achievers always allow someone else to hold them accountable. And because then that keeps them on track. But you have to give permission for that, right? And that's sort of, if we have a thing that says, if it's to be, it's up to me. But if you want to do more, be accountable to me, right? So it's that accountability piece is big. And then the third one is have a set of habits that you believe in, like the 7 habits of highly effective people. And we list in there 3 habits. You know, one is taking time out every week to work on your business, not just in your business. Having an energy plan in the morning, the way you launch your day. And then using the 3-foot rule, that is everyone within 3 feet of you is a potential prospect. Now it's 6 feet. Not the 3-foot rule.
That was a good pivot.
That's
very good pivot, Dave.
Pivot. Yeah, that's the pivot. And the 5 questions just simply, and I'm sure you guys have learned accountability. So, but first one is, what were you intending to do? In other words, what were your goals? What were your intentions for last week? Let's just say last week. What did you want to accomplish last week? All right. Number 2 is, how did you do? In other words, what are the numbers? What did you do? You know, I was going to make 20 calls. I made 15. All right. How do you feel about that? It's an emotional thing. See, motivation is always emotional. So how do you feel about that? Well, actually, it felt good to do that. I actually hadn't done 15 before. I think my goal was a little high, but I felt good. Okay. So how do you feel about that? The 4th one is, what are you going to do now? And that's a recommitment to a new set of goals. And the 5th one is, what could get in your way? And I really have a double one on the 5th one. One is, what could get in your way, and what resources do you have to help you? So what could get in your way? That's getting realistic. Oh, wait, well, my parents are coming in for the weekend, and that's going to interfere with my schedule. And, it's looking realistically at what's going on. And then what resources do you have allows you to look for where else can you get either leverage or help in accomplishing your goal. So those are the 5 questions.
That hour went so fast, and we're going to honor everyone's time, including you, Dave. And I'm sure that
Michelle, I want to make one offer to you.
Yes.
Because when you and Deb and I talked, you talked about how you're really encouraging your productivity coaches to build their profit share tree.
That's right.
Yes.
And what I would like to do is come on in a future call and take not this much time, but maybe 20 minutes to share with them why it is that building a profit share tree is like building a real estate business. It's a presentation I did to the mega camp in 2008, and I haven't seen it repeated anywhere. So it may be there somewhere, but I haven't seen it. Where you really
Anybody interested in that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be a yes, Dave. Thank you.
That's a big yes.
Work in the schedule, and I won't take this much time, but I think
no, we might want that much time if you'll give it to us.
Okay.
If you'll give it to us. Okay, so we're gonna do this on the count of 3. We're all gonna do the wave, right? So ready, 1, 2, 3, the wave. Let's go.
Whoa.
Okay, that's a big, huge wave of gratitude to you, Dave Jenks, for spending an hour with some of the most important people in our company. And we appreciate you so much for being here. And we absolutely will take you up on the future session with us. We're going to drive everybody to Dave. What was it? What's the website again?
Dave@kw.com. Well, first of all,
we're going to email you.
If you're going to email and you want anything, remember, you have to earn it by telling me what you got from this session.
That's right. We're going to do that.
The whole thing, 1 or 2 things. And then I'll send you those documents, including the top 10 books. And then if you want to go for the podcast, it's davejenks.com. And I'm having it's operational right now, but I'm also rebuilding it. So just look down at the bottom for the button that says Seeker the book. And if you click on that, it'll show you a stack of all 20 of the sessions that I recorded before. If any of those interest you, I'd be happy to listen. You can listen to them. But the 21st session is dealing with the virus.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Great.
So on behalf of all the productivity coaches on this call, Dave, our CEO, Gary Keller, your co-author of a few books. I just want to thank you for the time that you've invested in. We will honor you by taking all the information that we learned today and sharing it with the agents under our care. So we can continue to have the 20% market share when this is over. So thank you for your guidance today. We honor and we're just so grateful for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Everybody. Thanks, Dave.
Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you. See ya.
Thank you.